This is Jennifer.
And this is Kathy, and we're the podcasters for Ever So Dope.
Wow, I can't believe it's finally here. This is our first episode. We've worked so hard on this, and the time has come. We have two remarkable women who we're interviewing today that are telling us about their road to recovery.
We're super excited to meet and talk with them, and we hope you enjoy it.
Every day we out here fighting demons. We done stepped into a life that got us out here fiending. That money be the root of all evil, could kill us all. My homie had a bad addiction and died to an overdose of fentanyl. My other homie doing 30, killing with fentanyl. I just make sure I'm by the phone every time he call. Ever so dope, we all make some bad choices. Some of us get a second chance while others pay for it. The money and the drug got these women selling they soul. They done legalized weed, now everybody smoking drugs. People out here getting high, forgetting they got keys. Double cupping all night on that lean getting lit. Pumping that dog food, aka that heroin. Another mother just lost a child to something that's embarrassing. We need to make a change and break the cycle, all this foolishness. Every day, every so dope, we keep on losing keys.
Jennifer with Ever So Dope, and we have Kathy.
Hi.
And we have Anna here. She is our guest today. And Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm 33 years old. I was in addiction for about 13 years, and I've been sober about 6 months. So I'm working on healing myself, and I'm here at the Evers house. Yeah, so I appreciate being here, and it's really helped me to change my mind and my heart. So
you had long periods of sobriety in the past, though, right? You've had periods of where you were sober. You weren't just straight using for 13 years, right?
Yeah, I was sober a couple years, and then I ended up falling back into the addiction. But I think the longest I've ever been sober in the past 13 years is 2 years. So I know I can do it. It's just about getting healing enough to where I don't keep using.
What happened? What caused? What stressor? What?
Just
trigger.
Pressure,
Yeah.
I'm working on getting my kids back full time. So, trying to jump back into that before I'm ready and can swim on my own has really been hard. Not saying they're the reason why I messed up, but I just wasn't ready to have them full time in my life. So this time I'm taking my time. So.
Okay. So did you grow up around drugs? Was it when you were raised, or did you just sort of find it yourself?
Well, I was in a family that was very dysfunctional and were addicted to drugs. My dad actually died from the effects of being an IV drug user for so long. So I would say when I was about 14 or 15 is when me and my family started doing drugs together. So
it's learned behavior.
Exactly, yes.
So since you were so young and starting in this lifestyle, were you a victim of sexual abuse from older men, or did you go unscathed?
I did have an incident, but it was when I was young, with a family member.
So before addiction?
Yeah, it was before addiction.
Which probably didn't help you when you wanted to erase memories and whatnot. What we find is the majority of women who've used hard drugs have been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
The numbers are huge. It is a terrible thing to have to endure, and so you can kind of understand why someone would want to escape.
Trying to self-medicate.
Escape from those thoughts. Sure, I'm so sorry.
So what type of drugs did you do? Was it methamphetamines, heroin?
It started out with the opiates and weed and stuff like that, and then it escalated. When I got off the opiates, I started doing meth, and that became my drug of choice very quickly. So,
have you ever overdosed?
Yes, I overdosed. Actually, right before I came to Evers, the first time I OD'd on fentanyl, I was told it was cocaine. So
Did you have to go to the hospital? Were you hospitalized?
Yes.
Did they use Narcan on you?
They did,
did?
They narked me as soon as I didn't even know what was happening. I just woke up in the back of an ambulance, and I remember begging them not to tell my family because I had been sober for so long, and I knew then I needed help, and that's when I reached out to y'all.
I bet that was scary.
No, it really was. Yeah.
Gosh.
So, being in and out of addiction for 13 years, I'm sure it's put you in compromising living situations. Were you homeless? Did you have a house? How was that?
Yes. When I was about 8 years ago, I was on the needle real bad, and that's when I was homeless. I was couch surfing, so I was going back and forth, and yeah, it definitely did put me in a bad environment. So grateful I never went back to that, but it definitely showed me what it's like for some people, you know.
If you don't mind me asking, how many times have you been to rehab or a sober living facility?
This is my 8th time, so keep fighting. You know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you are to relapse, you just get up and try again.
Yeah, for sure.
So what made you this time want to get sober? What situation led to that?
I woke up in jail, I didn't wake up in jail, but I had something happen where I went to jail, and I was clean. I remember telling God, if I can stay clean for this many period of time, I won't touch it again. And I was just tired of the lifestyle of having to hunt down drugs and need something every day when I get up, you know, so...
It seems like it is more of a full-time job trying to find drugs and find where you're going to go and find your next hit or whatever. It takes a toll on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, every which way. It's exhausting. I've witnessed it so many times, and it's really hard to watch when it's somebody that you love.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to watch. So what's your future look like for you? What are your plans?
I'm definitely working on getting my kids back, really just focusing on laying down that foundation to where, you know, I can survive on my own and have a place stable and ready for them. Hopefully sometime in the future, maybe do something in recovery, because I know that's where my heart's at, you know, helping
Right.
people that are going through the same thing that I went
We
through.
said that earlier. The peer counselors, peers themselves are so important in this. And what we find is that when you encounter somebody that's done as successful, they've made it, they're on the other side, you know, they're living it, but they are so good at listening, and they're so good at not judging. That's what I find the problem being in this industry is the judgment that comes upon, especially women who use drugs. The stigma is just terrible. And so one of the reasons for our podcast is that, to shed light on these women that are wonderful people that deserve love and second chance, and you know, it's going to happen. It's just not.
It's like you said earlier, put a face to addiction, personalize it.
Yeah, and it is a matter of, it's not who it's going to happen to, it's when it's going to happen to them, because it's coming. Drugs are here, and we have to educate them when they're young. So we thank you for taking your time today and visiting with us, and you're on our first Ever So Dope podcast.
No.
So congrats!
Thank you. I appreciate it, y'all.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank
We
you,
wish
Anna.
you nothing but
Thank
good
you.
things. And we've got Brittany Johnston on the line today to talk about her experiences as a person who suffered and struggled with addiction, and then also her story of recovery. So, hi, Brittany. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today and sharing my story with you guys. So
We appreciate it, and we're so grateful too. Brittany's the one that did the artwork for the podcast. When you go to our podcast or any of our ads, you'll see some of her artwork. She's the one that's going to be doing that for us for Ever So Dope. So we're grateful for your talents, and thank you.
yeah, no, it's definitely a privilege to work with you guys and to be a part of what you guys are doing and helping the women of Panama City overcome addiction, and not just, you know, Bay County in general, because you guys work with a lot of the areas around Panama City too, but you know, just helping people change their lives. It's a privilege to work with you guys.
Yeah, well,
I'm very
we're grateful. But so let's get this little party started.
easy.
So,
Yeah, I know.
you want to tell us first a little bit about yourself, just briefly your story, and then we'll get down to the nitty gritty.
Yes, my name is Brittany Johnston, and I was born in Columbus, Ohio. And as a kid, I didn't understand, but I was born poor, and I had drug addiction and alcoholism already at a young age. With my family members, I was highly exposed with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles. My mother was 15 when she had me, so she also was a very young mother who struggled with addiction and things like that as well. So growing up, I was exposed at a very early age to those kinds of behaviors and those kinds of things. And I do feel like I feel like it heavily contributed to the later decisions in life that led to that. I started using probably at about 14. I really started picking up like actual like heavier drugs and narcotics and those things. I moved up from like the tobacco and the marijuana, and I started partying with things like real drugs. Like I started trying methamphetamine, and I got into painkillers really bad. And painkillers was my drug of choice. I got heavily addicted to those in high school. My mom got into a car accident, and she was prescribed for a while, so I was stealing them from her. And then after the doctors and everything stopped giving the pills away, so freely,
The pill
during my
mill.
teen years, I ended up pretty heavily addicted to heroin before I even reached 18. So it was definitely a crazy upbringing, I feel like, but overall it has definitely been a fantastic journey, and I'm proud to say I've overcome those.
We just got some questions for you. What we're trying to do is put a face to addiction. Let everybody that listens and everybody that know it can happen to them, where people come from, the demographics, and that it is
absolutely.
that it is.
The reality of it is that it starts to affect us. Like, okay, it's killing our kids. First of all, like when I became a full-blown heroin IV drug addict, I was 17. I was 17 years old, and I was shooting
That's
up
so
heroin in the bathroom stall at school.
Oh my God!
It was wild. It was really, really wild, and it wasn't just me. I wasn't just me. We had a group of kids that were heavily addicted to painkillers and opiates.
Did they try to stop? Did the school? Because knowing you personally, how smart you are, I mean,
we had a problem and turned a big blind eye.
We're familiar with that with county officials.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So they just let you
go.
go.
It was embarrassing. It was like they just, it was almost like we had a disease. It was like we were lepers.
Right.
It's like addicts are treated very much like lepers.
Right.
And if you acknowledge a problem, then you have to deal with the problem.
I think addiction is something that people are still learning how to fight.
Right.
And then the people that don't understand it become afraid, and they either turn a blind eye to it more.
Well, they don't think it's going to happen to them, and they judge. That's what we find every day. So, okay, so
and that you find that so often.
Right,
so often.
Right. How old did you say you were?
It's not their problem. It's not their problem.
Yeah. How old did? How old
the
did?
Thing about being. Oh, sorry.
How old did you say you were when you started using illegal drugs? How old?
I was 14.
14.
I was 14 years old.
And that started with prescription painkillers, and then it grew into a heroin addiction. Heroin.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was about 14, my mother allowed me to live with this guy that I met on the internet. Mm-hmm. My dad went to prison for sexual molestation, etc., etc. And then my mom let me move in with this guy I'd met on the internet, and I was 14, about to be 15 at the time, and I moved in with him. And when I got there, he was heavily involved in drugs. He was trafficking at a very large, in a big scale. Like,
so you learned really, really young how to survive in this lifestyle.
And I can imagine being.
Yeah, it is because like the people that like recovering addicts have a mentality about them and a mentality about the life that they've lived and the life that they're living and the life that they're choosing to either overcome or continue to subject themselves to.
Right.
So,
did you ever get into selling drugs?
I did. It was a lifestyle. It was a very fast-paced lifestyle. I've made a lot of money selling ecstasy here in Florida. I moved from Ohio to Florida when I was really bad off. I was 17 shooting up heroin, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I need to get out of here. So
I can imagine.
I had took a trip with some friends down. Well, we panhandled down to Florida because we heard that there was going to be a big music festival in like the National Forest. They have like these big music festivals or whatever. So I was like, oh well, I'll go hang out at a music festival and I'll go camping and I'll get off the drugs or whatever. Well, then I came down here and I lived in a tent for like a month in Ocala
weren't you
Forest.
scared? You weren't
Florida.
scared? You weren't scared? I'd have been petrified.
Of course I was scared. Of course I was scared. And like you learn, I think life has, I think that drugs have had a big part to play in that too. But when you, as an addict, you become very ballsy with a lot of things that you wouldn't normally be as okay doing.
You're like, I'm a good dancer when I drink. I'm a good dancer when I drink, and I really can't dance, but I think I can. Yeah, I get it.
It's like, it's exactly like that. And it's like when
because you were so.
It's like a current, Kathy. Like it's a big current. It's like imagine we're all out at sea, okay, and there's a group of us that are suddenly sucked into the rip current, and there's 30 of us that are sucked into a rip current, and we are all being sucked out to sea. And that's exactly what addiction is like. And we're all swimming in that current.
Yeah.
Some of us start to swim against it. Some of us are trying to, some of us are floating along with it. Some of us are just like happy to be there. We're like, we're having a good time,
What sounds like you have lived a lot of life in a short amount of time. How old are you, Brittany?
I'm 30. I just turned 30 in September.
Yeah, so you're still pretty young, and all of this happened. I mean, you've lived way more life than me.
Yes, I've been to prison and I've had house arrest, prison. I've done a year inpatient recovery, and more than that. I did more time than just that year, but I succeeded in a full inpatient year, and then. So I've definitely, and I've faced the repercussions as well. I think.
So what was the turning? What was the turning point for you? What changed you? What was the turning point for you? When did you decide that life wasn't for you anymore? What was the light bulb moment for you? When was that? How old were you?
When I felt like I really encountered, when I felt like I had a real experience with God, is when things changed for me, because it was no longer I was no longer doing what I wanted to do without consequence.
Right.
So when it wasn't a consequence of jail time or
it wasn't
whatever.
jailhouse religion, all that they talk about. Jailhouse religion
it
wasn't
that.
Mm-hmm.
It was like wow, there's a force at work in my life that has been at work in my life, that has taken the time to reveal itself to me now in such a way that I have no more desire for those things.
Right.
Simply because I'm aware of a greater good. And that's what changed things.
Yeah.
So
hang on a second, baby. Jen wants to ask you a question.
So do you have a good support system now? It sounds like you had your moment with God and you've turned a new leaf. How does being sober look for you now? Do you have a support system? Do you go to meetings?
Yes, my husband is a sober and great person. Like he's never had any kind of struggle with addiction or anything like that, and he's been a big foothold of stability for me in my life, as far as just being there for me through the ups and downs of after the hurricane. I had some ups and downs. I was drinking a little too much. I just had some real bad depression I was facing, and I feel like my husband, my kids, and of course Kathy, you guys have been there for me. as far as meetings, no, I personally do not attend meetings at this point in time in life, but I have spent a lot of time going to meetings, and I do feel like they teach you a lot, and I think that it's extremely beneficial, and I think that I highly recommend that you have groups and meetings and a support group. I have a fantastic support group. I do think that I could be a little more social. I think I could have more friends.
It's easy to sort of get secluded.
Yeah. We were talking about that this morning. We're just not social. You know, we work so much and deal with this on a day-to-day. It's like, social who? My circle is very, very small.
Yeah.
So tell us what's your future. What do you see your future looking like? What are you going to do with this life that you've lived? And you're 30 years
I'm
old.
gonna write a book. I'm going to write a book eventually.
That's awesome.
You know, I don't know if it's going to be like an autobiography. I don't exactly know what I want it to pinpoint and what direction I want it to be. But I know I want to write.
Are you thinking fiction, nonfiction?
What kind of book? You don't know? Is it going to be in reference to your
I
life?
don't know. I know that.
Self-help or?
I think that I definitely... I think I definitely want to do something along the lines of self-help. I definitely want to do something. I want to do something to help, like a children's book.
Yeah.
Promote awareness of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Speaking
And I
of-
want children to feel comfortable telling on people like their parents.
Right.
Since
Like,
you
I
were
want
so
children
young,
to know.
when
Does
you
that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Like, I want children to know that they can tell on the authority figures that are hurting them.
giving them a safe
That's kind
place.
of what I want to do.
Right. Well, bringing awareness to it too, because it's everywhere. I mean, it's just like drugs, and it's this human trafficking and sexual abuse of children, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, it's scary, and they need to know what to look for and how to take care of themselves, and so that's extremely important. And folks that have been in this lifestyle, they're the best teachers. Peers are the best teachers. The women that I find that work with me and have worked with me in my past for a recovery house are the best. Because they've been there, done that, won the T-shirts, and so they know, how to talk to somebody and talk them off of a ledge. You had a question, Jennifer? What was it?
Oh, yeah. Since you were so young when you got started in your active addiction, I could imagine that you got taken advantage of a lot, and maybe not even sexually, but just being young and naive. And I know you were you were more advanced for your age, I guess, as far as being shown to a different type of lifestyle. But were you taken advantage of a lot and misled?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, and I think a lot of false values were instilled in me, like just. When you get into addiction and you hang around people and you don't hold them accountable. So it's like, we call it snitching, but really it's like, I'm holding you accountable.
Absolutely.
It's like, it's not really, and it's like a lot of the street and the thug life, like, yes, of course I got robbed. Of course I got raped. Of course I got used. I think that's a common thing in the streets. But, I did encounter a guy who was selling drugs on a very, very big scale, who convinced me that he was keeping me away from the danger of the streets by protecting me and teaching me how to effectively sell drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that I wouldn't have to prostitute, and so that I wouldn't have to I live on it. He found me in the forest, living in a tent.
And you thought he was your
So
savior,
I
I'm
was
sure.
Yes, I definitely thought he was my savior, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take the charges for this dude, and I'm gonna go." I'm just like, it was the whole.
How do this is so familiar to me. I remember a lot of this when you. That's how we met when you got to this town that we live in, great old Bay County, Florida. Before you left and moved away. Our story is long. Yeah,
just fell in love.
Yes, you were. I wanted to hit you. It was shake you.
And trust me, I just thought that. And of course, as for like a young girl, like drugs were cool for me for a very long time. So like the lifestyle was very cool for me. Like all of those things were like cool.
Right.
Like
what you perceived as cool. How you felt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. Yeah. I was very misled for a very long time,
right.
And I don't think like when you're asking me was I like used or mistreated? Well, in the sense of like, I feel like those things impacted me more than like the physical brunt of just like street life.
Right.
I feel like the false ideas and the false, like those things, those core values of like loyalty and, you know, take the fall for these people who don't give a shit about you. And, but you know, it's just those things I think had a bigger impact on me in life.
I
than,
understand
like,
completely.
some of the crappy situations.
So
those were the things, those were the strongholds I had to break down.
Right.
You know, those were the beliefs I really had to change. It was like, you had to
And
get
you
me out of
almost
your
feel
house
like if you're holding
for
someone
going to work
accountable,
for old boy, for
that-
me to realize, like, you know.
So, I love you. You know that. I'm proud of you. You're like my kid. And you know, I want you to make a statement as to what you could tell someone that's coming up in this. What words of wisdom, wise wisdom, can you share with us to share with others of where you've been and what you, and not how you don't want someone else to go through what words of wisdom can you share that we can share with others? And in closing.
In closing, I'm going to say my words of wisdom would come with this. If you're lucky, you get maybe 80 Christmases, 80 Valentine's Days, 80 Easters, 80 birthdays. That's about it. That's about all you get. And how many you've had so far, I don't know. And how many you have left, I don't know. But 80 is not a very big number, period. So think about what you're doing and think about the decisions you're making, because time is not going to wait for you to pull your head out of your ass or the needle out of your arm.
Right.
Like, it's not. Time's going to keep going. Your children are going to keep growing. They're going to cut ties with you. You're going to lose everything. And you will sacrifice everything you are to addiction. Everything you have. And if you're willing to make that sacrifice, go ahead. But think about what you're doing before you go and you use again. Before you go and you make a decision to hang out with somebody that you know is going to jeopardize that for you. Like, flat out. We don't have enough time to be fooling around would
Right.
be my closing statement.
Right.
That's it. That's
Right.
all I got.
Yeah.
That's
a
my
lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
great.
That was
That's my word to wisdom.
Yeah,
You do not have
that's-
the time to keep fooling your ass.
Yeah, that's a lot. And you know, we get older and we get wrinkly and we get ugly and you know and
Yes.
that
and it's
it's
so much harder.
it
and you feel
is. It
worse.
is. It doesn't. The thrill is gone, so to speak. You know, and
Time
you've got your
doesn't-
life and your kids and your family. That's what's important. And that's in our God. You know, we've got to.
Yes,
We've
and the
got to.
temporary, just so temporary. It's
It
just
is.
so temporary. Like,
It is.
the fix of getting high is literally like, it's
Yeah.
there, it's gone, and then you're just left needy,
Yeah.
in need, in desire, in want, in empty. It's taking everything. And you ain't got no kids, you ain't got no house, you ain't got no car, you ain't got nothing.
And
Right.
you're just
You ain't got no
alone.
real friends.
Right. And then take a look in the mirror too. You know, you got to look and see what it's physically done to you. You know, not you personally, but in addiction, what it does, it takes its
Yeah,
toll.
no, absolutely.
It's just sad. So anyway, thank you, Brittany, for calling in, and we love you, and we're proud of you, and we're looking forward to
Yeah, I
the
love you guys too.
more interviews and more artwork from you. And we just want to. You know, we're grateful. You're our very, very first guest on Ever So Dope, which is very fitting. And so thank you so much.
Thank you, and we're so proud of you.
We're proud of you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Kathy. I love you guys.
Love you too. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.
We are so grateful to Anna and to Brittany for sharing their stories honestly and letting us in and have a peek at what they've been through, where they're going, and how they struggled. It's amazing how two completely different women struggled the same, and they didn't know each other, and they struggled the same. What I found in the years that I've been dealing with women in addiction, it's similar. Usually there is some sort of trauma in their life, and usually there's a man involved. So we're just grateful for their honesty and them coming to our first ever podcast for Ever So Dope. We're super excited. And we're just grateful that they've been here.
Next week, we're doing Arrested and Afraid, and we're going to touch on women who have been incarcerated, and we're also going to touch on the law enforcement side and sort of get their view on things. So we're super excited for next week.
Yeah, I've always wondered why these women or men or whatever get arrested. Those cops usually have those smiles on their faces. So my question is, I mean, do they all need to be police officers? I think there's some very good police officers, but I also think that there's some not so good police officers. And I think we need to touch on that a little bit as well, because some of the stories that they share are, they kind of make you go, huh? So that's something we'll talk about next week. Ever So Dope, 7 p.m. next Thursday.
Thank you.
See you then.
Every day we out here fighting demons. We done stepped into a life that got us out here fiending. That money be the root of all evil, could kill us all. My homie had a bad addiction and died to an overdose of fentanyl. My other homie doing 30, killing with fentanyl. I just make sure I'm by the phone every time he call. Ever so dope, we all make some bad choices. Some of us get a second chance while others pay for it. The money and the drug got these women selling they soul. They done legalized weed, now everybody smoking drugs. People out here getting high, forgetting they got keys. Double cupping all night on that lean, getting lit. Pumping that dog food, aka that heroin. Another mother just lost a child to something that's embarrassing. We need to make a change and break the cycle, all this foolishness. Every day, every so dope, we keep on losing keys.